The Day of the Dragon.
Yeah.
Has once again cloaked us with its presence. Got a great show for you today. Our guest picker is Kane, who is now Mayor Glenn Jacobs of Knox County. Going to get to that here in a little bit. That you definitely want to see that. Don't want to miss it. But first, there's something, and David Cohn is obviously remote, not in the studio today. We didn't have to go with replacement Cohn because we actually have the real Cohn, even though he's in a different spot. I just want to say last night, David, have you seen the movie Red Dragon?
Yes.
Yes. Blaine, have you seen the movie Red Dragon?
What do you mean? Like
no, like honestly, have you seen it?
Is it
okay, so you haven't
is it
seen
like is it with like Bruce Lee's brother?
No. No,
I haven't.
It's the prequel to Silence of the Lambs.
It's in the Hannibal trilogy, right?
In the Hannibal trilogy, yes.
Yeah.
So obviously we do Flaming Dragon Friday, where my brother can only be referred to as a dragon. He believes he becomes a dragon. So this is a scary movie, and I hadn't seen it in so long I had forgotten some of the parts. So me and my wife are sitting there watching it, and I don't know if you remember the scene, David, where Philip Seymour Hoffman is sitting, he's like glued to the chair, and the guy who's the red dragon wants to show him that he's the dragon, and he like stands in front of him with the lights there, and he takes off the robe, and he's got that huge tattoo of the dragon on his back. Do you remember that scene?
Well, yeah, with Philip Seymour Hoffman in it?
Yes, yeah, where he's tied to the chair.
I haven't seen it in a while, but
I started busting out laughing. And my wife was like, Jake, like, this is supposed to be scary. I just could not stop imagining Blaine's face on that guy's body. like Jen Lopez, normal. Jen Lopez, transformed. Like, I kept seeing it, and it turned what should have been a scary movie into an absolute hilarious 10 minutes. And she probably
now
thought
I have to rewatch it.
You're welcome. You're going to rewatch it, and you're going to see that scene. Because he takes off the robe, and he's butt-ass naked. So he just got the tattoo on his back, and he starts flexing. He's like, I am the dragon. Yeah. Like, let it just, oh my God.
I'm glad I can bring a little joy in life.
I just hope Crain & Co. Memes, who runs that account, can find that scene and superimpose Blaine's face on the guy. It'll be the greatest thing that he possibly could have put out. I just wanted to throw that out there. So for everybody out there who has seen Red Dragon, knows exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, you definitely need to see it. All right, we're going to break down Arkansas's chances to beat Texas this weekend at home. DJ Lagway is a go for Florida against LSU. And WWE Hall of Famer Kane joins us as our Week 12 guest picker for college football's biggest matchups. I'm Jake Crain. It's a Flaming Dragon Friday here at Crain & Company, so get ready to get burned. It's been a season of high and lows for Arkansas football, and this weekend at home against Texas is really their last big chance to make a splash. Now, no disrespect to Missouri, but this one hits different. Texas, riding high after, even though they lost to Georgia at home, bouncing back, they destroyed Florida. And even though that loss didn't seem to hurt them at all in the eyes of the College Football Playoff Committee, as they're still ranked third, some people are questioning how good Texas really is. And this weekend would be a nice feather in their cap if they win. But I think the question needs to be asked is how dangerous is this weekend for the Longhorns in general? Or from a 30,000-foot view, it looks dangerous as hell. And not just because A&M is on the horizon or this could be a quote-unquote trap game, even though it's really not. They're dangerous because Arkansas is dangerous. Bobby Petrino getting a bye week to sit in the lab with a pen and a pad trying to get this damn Talon off could be a big problem. Arkansas's defense should still be embarrassed after giving up a 63-piece with Cajun fries and a honey biscuit to Ole Miss a couple weeks ago. And we have seen them stand up against teams like Tennessee. So Texas isn't going to be able to just walk in there and play okay and win. Now, while Arkansas isn't dominant, they're good enough to beat Texas. And it's the last big show of Sam Pittman's 2024 tour. My biggest factors that will decide this game are pretty obvious and simple, but important. Can Taylon Green throw the ball well enough to achieve offensive balance? This is not only important on the versatility front, but the less he has to run, the lesser his chances are of getting hurt. How will Quinn Ewers start off? When Texas plays teams that are inept offensively, a slow start hadn't affected Quinn, but against teams with a legit offensive threat, a bad start could be the prequel to how the rest of the game will go. And finally, can Razorback DC Travis Williams pitch a perfect game from a play calling standpoint? He isn't afraid to take chances with blitzes and run stunts. And against Texas, he's going to have to do all of that. Will Arkansas be able to get home when he does, like they did against Tennessee? It's a big question. We know Texas is the better team overall, but Arkansas can be dangerous. And at this point, Texas hasn't shown the ability to consistently be elite, but this weekend's test will be a damn good one. All right, as I mentioned, former Michigan quarterback David Cone is joining us remote, and we know it's Friday.
Come on!
Here. Go ahead and play it.
This is flaming chocolate!
Gosh, I am a dragon, not only Friday, but all days of the week. And since David is remote, and it's only Jake in studio, Jake is the weakest link when it comes to this.
No, I'm not. That's not true.
So we're going to go 1.5 here, Coach. We're
gonna 1.5? So David doesn't count?
No, David counts, but look, I don't expect it coming from him, but I'm going to get you. I'm going to get your mind today, buddy.
David.
You're in a Shark Tank.
David
for me remote.
David in living form. David transformed. David in living form. David transformed. It's not going to hit. But, Coney, I want to start with you. We're going to get to the picks. This is one that's on the board when we bring Kane in here, a.k.a. Glenn Jacobs. But when you look at this game, that line is still starting to fall. It started at, 14 and a half? It started at 16 and a half, went down to 14, down to 12 and a half the last time I saw. I don't know if it's gone down further than that. What chances do you give Arkansas, and what do they have to do against Texas to be able to win a big one at home?
Look, I think that line's pretty much right. I believe it was the Flaming Dragon there who asked earlier in the week, would Arkansas rather this be a high-scoring game or a low-scoring game? I've been thinking about that question a lot this week, and I think you could make a case for either one of those. But the way that some of their games have gone this season, I think they would benefit from a low-scoring game. When you look at the way they beat Tennessee, they won that football game without scoring 20 points. When you look at the Auburn game, they were able to win that one 24-14. But some of these shootouts, even when they do put up a lot of yardage and a lot of points, like the Oklahoma State game, for instance, they fell short in double overtime. The Ole Miss game, that turned into a shootout, but only Ole Miss was shooting. So I think that Arkansas is in an interesting place now with both of these coordinators and talent on both sides of the football that, yes, they could beat Texas 41-38. They could beat Texas 24-17. I think that the answer to that question is they would benefit from a low-scoring game. And more importantly, if Arkansas is not going to be the team in the game who sets the tone and dictates the direction that it goes, then they at least need to be able to respond with both sides of the football when Texas has success. For instance, if Texas gets a big 3 and out, or if Texas gets a big sack, turnover, something like that, Arkansas's defense needs to respond. If Texas hits a big play for a touchdown or has a long drive for a touchdown, Arkansas's offense needs to be able to respond. I don't think they want to find themselves down in a deep deficit against Texas here.
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, if I'm going to, if it turns into a shootout, if I got to pick a defense to get more stops than the other, it damn sure is Texas, right? We've seen that Texas offense. Yeah, and I know Sark is an absolute witch and a wizard, but we've seen them, kind of falter a little bit with Quinn Ewers at points in time, sometimes against teams that are good offensively, sometimes against teams that are bad offensively. But Flamin' Dragon, I want to ask you, if you're Arkansas and you're Sam Pittman, you're Bobby Petrino, you're Travis Williams, you got 2 weeks. It's the Bourbon Bowl. I mean, you're not going to hold anything back. Fake punts, trick plays, exotic blitzes, right? Surprise onside kicks, because now you can really only do that in college. If you're Arkansas, you got nothing to hold you back, which makes you extra dangerous, but it could put you in a bad situation if you make some stupid mistakes and decisions early just because it's kind of the last hurrah. And again, no disrespect to Missouri, but I think this one hits different.
Look, if you're Arkansas, you want to go 100 miles per hour, but you want that 100 miles per hour to be controlled, right? You want to hit the gas pedal, but still look in the rearview mirror at the same time. And the more I look at this game, I think this game is so much more about Texas than it is about Arkansas. What do we really know about Texas and how good Texas is? Look, Arkansas is a mediocre football team. That's what their record showed. They had a couple close games, but I do think, look at who Arkansas is. Taylor Green, great piece. You can run the ball, but I don't think you're that great. I think this is more about the hate that's involved in this game. Don't get this wrong. These two teams hate each other now, and this goes way, way, way back, and this game will be at Arkansas. And there has to be a reason this spread came down from 16.5 to 12.5. And at this point,
they watch Crain and Company.
This is the way I look at it. I think Arkansas is about as dangerous as a butter knife you put into a ribeye. I do not believe in this Arkansas team. I don't think Taylor Green's arm is good enough to beat Texas. I like Texas in this game by a lot. I think Texas is good enough with all the weapons that they have. I don't think Arkansas is going to be able to get to Quinn Ewers. And then you go to Helm, the tight end, the receiver, the absolute weapons they have a receiver from 1, 2, and 3, and the running game they have. I think this game's going to be a beatdown, and I'm leaning towards Texas as each day passes.
Well, and two, David, if you're Texas and you're able to kind of see it from a full-throated view, you want to win every game, obviously, but the way you win games, especially now that people are doubting that third spot where you're at in the College Football Playoff Committee, or as I call them, the CCP, the College Committee of Playoffs. When you look at what Texas needs to do, if you were to drop that Texas A&M game at the end, you probably need some style points against Arkansas, especially considering Ole Miss beat their ass by 40 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. I was thinking about that on the drive over here. I was thinking if you're Texas right now, it would almost be better to look good in this football game and to play complementary football. That would be even more beneficial than winning by a lot of points. Now, I know that may seem like splitting hairs, like, hey, if you're playing really good and you look good, you probably won by a lot of points, but not always. How many times have we seen Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs dominate a team, but they won by 10 points or they won by 13 points? At the end of the season, the committee, it's easier for them to look down a month from now and say, oh, yeah, Texas beat Arkansas by so many points, right? Like that Ole Miss score over Arkansas is really going to stand out to people. So I wonder if Steve Sarkisian in Texas is trying to replicate that so that they get sort of a rubber stamp in numerical form that you can look at the end of the year. But just for people like me, for people like you, for people who have said, man, Texas looks good, but the first sign of adversity when they played Georgia, they pulled their starting quarterback. Are they really that good? They don't have ranked wins at this point right now in the season because Michigan isn't good. I think that it would be very good for them to go in and look like a complete football team. And then, to Flamin' Dragon's point, I do think when he was talking about the line there a little bit, I think the line is right now, Jake. I mean, do you like it at 12.5 or did you like it more when it opened up?
If you're on the Arkansas side, obviously you liked it more when it opened up at that 16 number. I think anything over 10, I'm going to take Arkansas in double digits. I think it kind of protects me from a back door, whether it's a touchdown late if Texas is up 3 to push it to 10. So anything 10.5 and above, I kind of like Arkansas. I'm going to stay away from the total in this game. But Flamin', I want to ask you this. If you're Steve Sarkisian and you're sitting there and you're watching tape on Arkansas and you're there with Quinn Ewers and the rest of the quarterbacks, are you thinking, hey, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, because if it's me and I was Travis Williams, I know what I would do. I would heat you up early because I don't think Arkansas is going to be able to consistently get there with 4. And I know if you get to Quinn early, you can get to him late. So I would be expecting, if I was Sark sitting in that quarterback meeting room, guys, not only do I think they're going to bluff pressure, I think they're going to bring pressure. I think they're going to show it from one side and bring it from the other. Everybody thinks playing with a reckless abandon when you have quote-unquote nothing to lose or it's getting toward the end of the year and you want to shoot your shot is just like trick plays and all this other stuff. That's not true. It's blitzing in different situations. It's taking chances with run stunts on 1st and 10. If you go back and watch that Tennessee game and watch what Arkansas did defensively, I think it's going to be damn near an exact blueprint. But early, I would be expecting pressure.
Yeah, and if you're Will in this game, you go back to the game you just talked about, you almost have to pitch a perfect game from a defensive coordinator standpoint because if there's anybody with the plan, Sark's like he's a witch. Guys, he's a wizard. He has a plan for plans on top of plans. It's layer cake. That's what he does. Steve Sarkisian is expecting blitz in this game. And I promise you, I wouldn't be surprised to see 3 or 4 plus screens in the first half just to slow this Arkansas front down and make him sit back because if Quinn Ewers can sit in the pocket, he's as good as anybody.
Yeah, you're cooked.
He really is with Isaiah Bond and all these guys. So I just keep looking at this game, and it's a recipe for disaster for Arkansas. You can get up as much as you want, and if Texas hits early, all right, and can get the crowd out of this game, now we're in dangerous waters. Yeah. And it's on the other side, too. If you're Arkansas, you need something to go right, and you need it to go right early to get the crowd.
Well, and when it goes right, you got to take advantage of it. David, I was sitting over at your house watching Arkansas and Ole Miss. Ole Miss gets the ball, drives it all the way down to the inch-yard line, goes for it on 4th and goal, and gets stuffed. Everybody in Arkansas is like, here we go. We're going to have another barn burner. Yeah. Then 2 plays later, Taylor Green gets a sack fumble. Ole Miss scores, and it was just, they beat him to death for the rest of that game.
100%. And I'm so glad you said the phrase earlier, if Arkansas can get to Quinn Ewers early, then they can get to him late. Because that reminds me of one final point that I wanted to make on this game. Arkansas needs to go back and look at that Oklahoma and Texas game, and they need to make sure that they don't replicate what Oklahoma did. Because Oklahoma got to Quinn Ewers early. I think they sacked him on the first drop back that he had. Oklahoma was beating Texas in the first quarter. They need to make sure, and not that teams or the players out there get complacent, but you do need to understand that just being up in the first quarter on Texas isn't good enough. This is going to be a full game. And even if you go and watch the Georgia game, game. I mean, Dragon was talking about having to pitch a perfect game on defense against the Longhorns on offense. Georgia pretty much did that on the first half. But look, Steve Sarkisian always had something for you, and even he was able to score some in the second half of that game, even though Georgia got away with it. So Arkansas needs to go and make sure they review both of those games and just put Texas away if they're given the opportunity.
100%. Appreciate everybody joining us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I know we got a lot of people in there. The phone lines are going to open at 2:45 p.m. Central. It is 1-855-236-3228. We want to hear from you. If you're an LSU fan, Michigan fan, and you haven't seen the interview of Bryce Underwood as well, you need to make sure and check that out. It's absolutely blowing up right now because he kind of goes in detail of what we're seeing now. But let's go ahead and get to the chat here.
All right, chat, hit that like, hit that subscribe button on this beautiful Dragon Friday. If you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. We're going to start the day off with DD. What's up, dude? Good to see you in here. Texas has no quality wins. Beating Arkansas is also not a quality win and will be not a top 25 wins. I don't think this will help in the eyes of the committee.
Well, I think it's how you look, right? That's what we were just discussing. I'm not going to sit here and disagree with you, DD, that this isn't going to be the win that stamps Texas into the college football playoff, right? Like you feel like that Ole Miss win was last week against Georgia with what they have left coming down the pipe. Like that's the win you can point to and say, see, this is the one that really matters. Or like Notre Dame beating Texas A&M at the beginning of the season. But we talk about eye test, and I know we talked about, you know, the big brands and the bias with the college football playoff committee and all that's true, but you have to pass the eye test as well. And, you know, to Cone's point, and I think it was a salient one, is if Arkansas plays well and Texas plays well and Texas wins, sometimes that can look as good as a 30-point win if Arkansas plays awful. So a lot of it is about the functionality of your team and those three phases, right? We talk about complementary football, offense, defense, and special teams. That's what the committee is looking at. The committee is looking at which team is the most complete, which team is getting, it's not if you get hot, it is when you get hot, and they are human beings. Recency bias is a real thing. So if Arkansas goes down there and messes around and barely wins, if Arkansas plays bad, that's one thing. But if it's a tight game because both teams are playing well and it's a hell of a game and Texas wins, I do think that will curry some favor in the eyes of the committee if they go play a close game against A&M and lose, as opposed to just Arkansas looking terrible.
All right, let's go to Cousin Danny. Says, long-time listener, first-time chatter. Welcome to the party, buddy. Says, is it just me, or does it feel like the nation is rooting for Arkansas in this game?
Look, I don't think this is a knock against Texas. I mean, Texas is one of the big boys in college football. I think you see this for a lot of big brands, right? Why do you think so many people go shop try and go to, you know, locally owned stores as opposed to going to Walmart? There's just something about being the big bad Texas Longhorns or the big bad New York Yankees or the big bad Alabama Crimson Tide. America loves an underdog, all right? The only thing they love more than seeing an underdog succeed is seeing a superdog fall. That's why, you know, when the ratings for Superman, when he, you know, gets hurt are higher than when he lasers somebody with his eyes. So, yeah, I would think most of the country who aren't Texas fans are fans of other teams, right, and don't like Texas, or they're fans of teams that need Texas to lose. So I think in aggregate, you're right, but I think it's a compliment to Texas. I would rather people hate me because I'm a big bad boss than just hate me to hate me.
Yeah. There are certainly a lot of college football fans across the country that don't want to see Texas and Notre Dame both in the college football playoff. True. I'm not necessarily one of them. I don't have that much energy to be rooting against teams like that when I have no dog in the fight.
Yeah, and I'm from Auburn, so I've got too much time in the hate meter when we're not on the show.
I was going to K-Can. What's up, dude? He says, good little stat right here. Arkansas's defense is one of the worst in the nation of giving up explosive plays, and guess where Texas ranks at? Number 1.
And, you know, I would love to dive in, and again, this is where, you know, I kind of miss the coaching parts of being able to see the reports and getting what happens out of certain formations. I wonder if most of those explosive plays, because you're going to get hit with explosive plays when you take chances with blitzes and run stunts and different type of movements, but then you're also going to give up explosive plays when you're playing too high, right? Or you're just playing quarters, or you're playing cover 6, you're playing man free or whatever. I wonder what the percentage of big plays Arkansas has given up when they don't pressure when compared to when they do pressure. Because I think that's going to tell you got to do a little bit of everything. You can't live in a world of absolutes, but I wonder what those numbers are. I just don't know them.
And I'd like to see what percentage of those big plays have resulted in touchdowns, because an explosive play doesn't always mean touchdowns. And if you give up a lot of yardage in between the 20s, but you restrict offenses when they're in the red zone, you can still win football games.
That's a great point.
All right, let's go to Billy B. What's up, brother? He says, if you're Arkansas, how much do you emphasize the run in this game just to keep it out of Quinn Ewers and this Texas offensive's hands?
Well, I think that depends on how the game is going. I don't think you go in there if you're Arkansas and you're like, we're just going to run it to run the clock and pray to God that everything else works out. But if the run game is working, if you feel like you have some versatility and some balance on offense, the split bluff off split zones working. Taylon Green seems to be a little bit in his bag, and he's throwing the ball like we've seen him at certain moments in big games where you're like, where has this guy been? Then you'll watch him the next game, and he can't hit water if he fell out of a helicopter into the ocean. But if this game is close and the run game is working and there's balance, there does come a point in time where you look up in that second half or maybe close to the end of the first half, and you're like, hey, we need to eat about 4 or 5 minutes of this clock, or at least give our defense a breather. If we're up 4, if we're up 7, maybe Texas just scored to tighten it up or something like that. It just depends on the circumstance. But if I'm Arkansas, I'm not going in there thinking, how much time can we eat on the clock? I'm going in there thinking I'm going to empty the clip with everything that we possibly have, every maneuver that Bobby Pease had 2 weeks, like I said, to sit in the lab with a pen in the pad trying to get this damn Taylon off to see what he can do against that defense. All right, one more week.
Let's go to Ricky P. What's up? He said, Jake, if you had to choose right now for an OC, would you rather take Sark or Petrino?
Sark.
Cone?
I mean, that's
Agreed. Agreed.
I mean, we're going to win either way, but Sark, I think the difference in Sark isn't even schematically. I think, and Bobby, and I am splitting hairs here because these are two of the best. I think from a quarterback development standpoint, if that OC is going to coach my quarterbacks, I want it to be Sarkisian as well, a little bit over Petrino. Schematically, the way they call plays, the setup plays, which David diagrammed beautifully in a huddle up earlier in the week on the Tuesday show. If you missed that, you definitely need to see it. I would take Sark by a hair, but I'll tell you what I wouldn't take by a hair. I'll take it in the bushel loads. Our friends over at Black Rifle Coffee, I got it in the tumbler right now. All right, because it's one thing to have incredible roast, right, which they have a variety of them. It's another thing to have, like espresso, the Electric Eagle espresso that our friend David Cohn loves over there. But it's also awesome when the place you're getting the product from has the same values as you do. And every purchase you make with Black Rifle Coffee helps them further their mission to support veteran and first responder causes. Everything from getting funding and equipment to first responders to helping vets get medical care. They have a huge selection, just talking about the roast, dark roast, light roast, everything in between. They got a coffee quiz on the website. Maybe you don't know exactly what you want. They can help you out in that regard. So head to blackriflecoffee.com right now and use code DailyWire for 20% off of America's coffee. It's great coffee, and it's a great cause. That's blackriflecoffee.com. Use code DailyWire, all one word, for that 20% off. A fantastic product for a fantastic reason. All right, I want to move on here to rapid fire. David, I'm going to start with you. Dana Holgorsen, former Houston coach, was brought in by Matt Rule to be the offensive coordinator and call the plays. So my question to you, Cone, is one, I'm guessing you like the move. How much do you like the move? And then two, if you're Dana Holgorsen, you can't come in here and just reinvent the offense and give brand new terminology and start calling everything different. So how much different is this offense going to be from what we have seen in the past when you're looking at formations and play calling? I'm not talking about cadence of the play calling. That's going to change. But how different can you make it in this short of a period of time?
Well, I can obviously tell that you were a coach because you're thinking the same thing I was when I say, okay, what Dana's going to come in now in the middle of the season and call plays. You're not going to invent new terminology or terminology that he's used for years and years. I really would like to see what the process was and how it played out, which we highlighted this, 2 weeks ago? Whenever he was brought in as an analyst or whatever it was, I'm sure that's what he was doing behind the scenes, understanding not just the team's terminology that they're currently using, but also the personnel and, the 2 deep, 3 deep of the team and everything, all the personnel that he has to work with so that he could move into this role and call plays. I still find it a bit weird in the middle of the season, but look, Nebraska's not fighting for a spot in the conference championship. They're not fighting for a spot in the college football playoff. So I'm wondering if this is sort of a long-term thing or if this is just a Band-Aid to get him to the end of the season, maybe help develop the freshman quarterback a little bit so that he can move into a sophomore campaign and Nebraska can hopefully attain their goals next year. I'm not sure, but look, I told you guys yesterday, I'm taking them +9 playing at Southern California, who has their own quarterback drama right now.
Yeah, and Flaming, the thing that, and again, just the way you approach this when you're in the business is a little bit different than just, looking at it from on top of a canyon down below. What would worry me if I'm a Nebraska fan isn't the quality of play calling. Isn't Dana Holgorsen not knowing what he's looking at. I mean, this is his bag. This is what he does. But from a functionality standpoint, getting the call in, because when you call, Dana Holgorsen has used his terminology since he's been at West Virginia and probably even before that. So regardless of how much you study, I could sit here and get a Rosetta Stone in Japanese for 3 weeks, right? And I may even fly over to Japan, but after 3 weeks, if I want a cheeseburger, I'm probably going to go in there and accidentally say cheeseburger.
I can barely
so when you have a play clock, right, that's 25 seconds and you've got to get a play in, or it's a 2-minute drill, right? And you're talking to the quarterback with 15 seconds before they cut it off. You've got to be very crisp. You've got to be very concise. You've got to be very clear. And I just wonder how much of that regression back to what he knows and how he calls it could cost them a big 5-yard penalty. How many timeouts are you going to have to burn early in the game because there's a communication issue?
The big thing with me, and I think Dana will adjust more than Dylan Raiola will have to adjust, I believe, especially with Dylan being so young. But what happened to this Nebraska team?
Quarterback got hurt.
What? I mean, not even that. I mean, you come out and you beat a good Colorado team right now with 2 losses who's looking like they're going to probably go to the playoff, and then you just absolutely fall apart. You lose to Illinois.
I'd say Big 12 championship. I wouldn't say playoff right now. I'd say looking like they...
Well, they have like really good odds to make the playoff. I'm talking from an odds standpoint. Colorado has that. But it's just almost panic mode to me for Nebraska. If you're having to bring this guy in to come fix this, even if it's year 1 with Dylan, it's just the way you started with all this returning production that you had on defense. You didn't have to be phenomenal on offense. No. And now it's just an absolute fall apart. Nebraska was almost a sleeper team for me this year. And then after the Illinois game, I know Dylan got hurt, but it just fell off an absolute cliff. And Matt Rule's supposed to be the what?
Yeah,
the builder.
Well, I've been more disappointed defensively with Nebraska and Tony White. Offense, with the young quarterback, we've talked about this a lot. It's been a letdown on defense to a certain extent as well. I want to move on here. I want to stay in college football. I want to update some injuries for everybody. DJ Lagway is going to play against LSU at home this weekend for Florida. It was a hamstring deal, so I don't know how mobile he's going to be, but obviously you'd much rather have him playing, even if he's not as mobile, as opposed to the Senators kid they had in there, Werner or whatever, who tried his best. I mean, again, I'm not trying to knock the kid. We know Graham Mertz is hurt as well. Flaming, let me start with you. How do you feel about that LSU Florida under? I don't know, have the numbers gone up on that line?
I would think
it was at
so.
55. I still feel good about the under.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I mean, bringing DJ Lagway in completely changes the schematics.
Well, it gives you a chance.
Yeah, right. Well, it gives you a guy who can extend plays, make big plays on third down. It gives you a guy that the defense has to put another hat on in the box. But right now, I think LSU's out for revenge. Not even against Florida, but against themselves. After what they played and put on a field for 4 quarters and that ass whipping against Alabama. I like this, and I will keep saying this, but I don't think Billy Napier's the guy at Florida. Y'all can keep putting him on this pedestal. I don't know why. I do know why, because you don't want to buy that buyout, but I like LSU in this game. I like them by a lot, and I don't think the over will be a bad choice either. I could see this game being 50-25 or 35, something in that range.
David, when you look at what LSU is coming off of, being out of the college football playoff, most likely, I know Moscona came on here and we went through the inception levels, the dream within a dream within a dream if this happens, but the odds are they're probably not going to make it. Is Flaming right? Do you think LSU is going to come out, even though DJ Lagway is back, and be like, look, I said I was going to fast, but I woke up at 11 o'clock at night, ate that double cheeseburger, now I got to run an extra mile today?
Now you got me thinking about food, so I'm trying to orient myself towards the question there.
You say
Obviously,
Oreo?
the first thing, when I saw this news, I thought, wow, in my locks, leans, and dogs, I took the under in the Florida game. I'm looking right now, it hasn't really moved, though. 55.5, and honestly, I still feel pretty good about it, despite the fact that, obviously, DJ Lagway gives Florida a better opportunity to move the football in this LSU defense. But I'm sticking by the under there. I'm not going to panic on that. Just in terms of the game, I would be shocked if this thing ends up being 50-25. But just for Florida moving forward, I think that's kind of the direction that you were going there. Billy has gotten a stay of execution, right? And this is your big recruit. This is your guy. I think the goal is to get him as battle tested as possible. Obviously, you don't want him to get any more injured, so they're not going to take a chance on running him out there if he's not fully capable of playing. I think that you get him as battle tested as possible and say, hey, next year we need to be as good as we can possibly be. Our backs are really going to be against the wall, and the schedule's not going to be any easier. This is a great opportunity for you to go get some valuable reps against LSU.
You know, the Billy Napier situation reminds me of in the movies, like where you see somebody like fell off a cliff or the side of a mountain, and the person's like, no, that watched him fall off, and they run and they look, and he like grabbed a root that's coming out of the mountain. He's just hanging there, and he's still alive. That's what it feels like for Billy Napier. But somebody that is not going to play this weekend in a huge game, Georgia running back, the Etienne kid, I always want to call him Travis. Trevor Etienne is going to be out versus Tennessee, which is huge. We've talked about Georgia's lack of run game, right, and ability to, help Carson Beck, and then Carson Beck to raise everybody else around him. Not that Nate Frazier's a bad back, but he has put the ball on the ground a couple times. We know they've had a couple injuries there outside of Etienne. How bad does this hurt Georgia, David?
Yeah, and that's a tough loss right there, especially when we were talking about how much Carson Beck has been struggling, and the best key that he could have to help alleviate those struggles is a good running game, or at least some sort of consistent running game for Georgia. So I think this is a big loss. But again, is this loss offset by the loss of Nico for Tennessee? We still don't know his playing status. Sounds like he might try and go, but concussion protocol, look, we're never really sure. So look, I feel even better about the under that I took in this game yesterday.
Without a doubt, Flamin.
Oh, no, you have to replace a guy who rushes for 40 yards a game. Yeah, I mean, it's so detrimental. I mean, it's not a big deal. They can't run the ball anyways.
But when you want your best back, like, there to do
Is he their best back? Are you 100 on that?
I think he's
I mean, Frazier's not bad. Hell, it doesn't hurt sometimes to get a new face in there. Maybe get a little adrenaline rush. Get him in. I mean,
you put the white boy in there, Cash Jones.
His name's Cash. Why not? You can't run the ball anyways. I mean, it sucks the kid's injured. I hope he gets better. I don't want anything bad on that part. But hell, he's averaging 37 yards a game. Oh no, we're cooked.
I'd want all I could get against this Tennessee defense, man.
Yeah, I'm with you, especially with Dylan Sampson on the other side. We know his ability to run. All right, a couple more here, then I want to get back to the chat. So apparently, now, it's not apparent. John Gruden works for Barstool Sports now. But apparently, he was very close to becoming the next head coach at Tennessee. I want to play this clip, then I want you guys' opinion on it.
How close you were to actually signing that, because there was a rumor. You remember you had your picture taken in a Hooters.
Yeah.
I think in Knoxville, Tennessee. Yep. And the internet went wild. They were like, okay, Gruden's in the Hooters. He's going to be our coach. I thought John Gruden might just love Hooters that much that he's just casually stopping in for an ice cold beer.
No, I do love Hooters. I did love Hooters when Hooters was in their heyday. But my wife cheered at Tennessee. I love Tennessee. I was a graduate coach there, and I did talk to the athletic director. And I don't look up to anybody more than I look up to Peyton Manning and Kenny Chesney. Those are two of my favorite Tennessee guys. And I was very interested in doing it. But at that time, I was having so much fun on Monday Night Football with Mike Tirico, I couldn't take any other job. Hell, Tennessee was one that is really close to my heart. I almost did consider pulling the trigger there.
Well, is it sad, David, that the main thing I got out of that was the veiled, subtle shot at Hooters not being what they used to be?
What are we talking about?
Well, listen, I do remember, like, I went to Hooters for my 12th birthday. All right, I'll go ahead and tell you straight up, okay? And the Hooters, the way it was back then, just from a quality control standpoint, at least in my mind, it's kind of changed. The standards, I feel like, have been...
You're a monster.
I'm just saying. Kind of just keep it straight.
The misogyny in this room.
Okay.
Through the door.
I've never given a massage in my life.
I think the real question is, if you're a Tennessee fan, would you rather have Josh Heupel or John Gruden?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you two. Like, what if that happened? And John Gruden, it may have been the most amazing thing of all time. They may have won 3-4 national championships. I don't know. Probably not with what Nick Saban was doing. But with Tennessee fans, if they could go back in time knowing what they know now, and I want y'all to tell me in the chat and in the comments, would y'all take John Gruden and say, all right, we'll just take our chances with that? Or would you say, no, I like the way it played out. I like where we sit right now?
You know, just in that era of football, when he was talking about taking that job, when he was still on Monday Night Football, that was still during the Nick Saban dynasty. And if you're going to compete with that, especially in the same conference, you have to be obsessed with recruiting. I just wonder, would John Gruden, I know he's obsessed with football, would he have been as obsessed with recruiting? We talk about it all the time. Some guys are college coaches, some guys are NFL coaches, and recruiting is a big piece of that. I wonder how he would have taken to that element of the college game.
It's a great point. All right, let's get to the chat.
All right, let's go to CWS. He says, fellas, I got a question for all three of you. Which one do you like more, Hooters or Twin Peaks?
Twin Peaks.
Hooters, so man. Hooters gave us the VIP cards.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Hooters.
Are they not the same thing?
I changed my vote. Well, no, they're not.
How dare you?
Same concept.
Justine.
Same
Anybody
concept.
who gives us VIP cards, I'm loyal.
That is true. I'd like to hop in the transfer portal when it comes to those type of restaurants and go back to Hooters.
Let's go to the Crunk Donkey. He says, nope, I love Chucky, but Josh Heupel is our guy.
I think most Tennessee fans would say that. I think probably 75% of Tennessee fans would say that.
All right, let's go to Mr. Man. He says, do you think old boy would have won a natty if he did go to Tennessee?
Just in that era, I'm going to say no.
I'll say no, too.
I'm going to say no because, well, it's like
John
this.
Gruden, man.
Well, you brought it up. You know, Nick Saban went to the NFL and it didn't work the way that he wanted to do it. Steve Spurrier went to the NFL. It really didn't work the way he wanted to do it because he's a college guy and you have more control in college. I do wonder, though, if it would be easier to go from the NFL to college with that type of name because you would have more control in college than you do in the NFL, even if you are John Gruden. But I still having said that, I think most Tennessee fans will be smart to say, listen, Heupel's doing it the right way. Let's keep chugging along here.
Let's go to Rick. He says, Gruden is a pro coach. He would have definitely needed a recruited team to succeed. And how much would he have wanted to recruit?
I don't know. He's the type of guy that may have fallen in love with it, though. Like, I feel like he does have that personality when you compared him to some other guys that were pros that came down to the college level. All right, we're going to get to our interview with Kane, a.k.a. Mayor Glenn Jacobs of Knox County. But first, all right, whether it's Hooters, whether it's Twin Peaks, maybe you're starting your own business. Maybe it's Twin Hooters, all right, or Peakers, whatever you want to call it. You need to make sure that you can focus on what you need to focus, and you need to get some of the stuff off your plate to somebody that you trust. And that's why nobody does selling better than Shopify, and that's also why they're home to the #1 checkout on the planet. Our marketing team uses Shopify every day to sell our merchandise, and we love how easy it is to add more items, ship products, and track conversions. You want to grow your business, but especially if you're starting from scratch. I get podcasters all the time. Jake, I'm starting a podcast. Who do I need to use? What do I need to do? Because there's so much, you don't realize how much you have to do until you're in that spot. The first thing you need to do is sign up with Shopify, and we got a heck of a deal for you as well. And here's the not-so-secret. With Shop Pay, they boost conversions up to 50% as well. That's a little hidden gem that they have. That means way fewer abandoned carts and way more sales going. So if you're ready to take your business to the next level, upgrade it and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. And you can sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/CRAIN, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/CRAIN to upgrade your selling today. Head over there, shopify.com/Crain. All right, fellas, it's time to get to somebody who would literally throw you up against the ropes, our good friend Kane. We have arrived to Friday, which means we have an incredible guest picker to go through the 5 games that we want to pick. And we thought, there's a lot of tension in the United States right now. We just had an election. Why not get one of the most intimidating guys to come on here, talk to our audience? He used to wrestle people. He's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. You know him as Kane, but now he's taken another step. He is the mayor of Knox County. Glenn Jacobs, Kane, whatever you want to call it, the mayor, Mr. Mayor. Well, thanks so much for joining us, brother.
Thanks, guys. How y'all doing?
Good.
Doing great.
Great.
I want to start off, and obviously, we got you here in our studio in the incredible
greatest
outfit
portrait
there.
ever, by the way.
It's a pretty daggone good one. That's one of the, we have sponsors that come in here, and this is the first thing they see, and they're like, oh my God, you interviewed Kane? We're like, yeah. And then we're like, he's a mayor now. And they're like, shut up. Like, they don't believe us. And then they look it up and they're like, oh my God, it's true. But, I want to start off with something that is sport, in the sports world and in the political world as well. And I think one of the most underrated wins, because there's so much that's wrong going on right now that needs to be fixed. But one of the things that is so important with this new administration coming in is, do you feel like early on, I'm talking right when you get in there, we're going to get a fix on men in women's sports? Because it seems like obviously this new administration has the common sense to realize how crazy that is to not do.
Yeah, absolutely. A while back, Donald Trump was on Undertaker's 6 Feet Under podcast, and I was there while they were filming it. And that was the one political question that Undertaker asked. He has a daughter who plays now girls flag football. And that was the one political question that was on his mind. And obviously Donald Trump says, yeah, we're going to fix that. And I think that so much of the election, and when you see Donald Trump winning so convincingly, it was issues like that played a huge part of it. When folks on the left have literally lost their mind and are doing things like men's and women's sports and using that as a platform, I would hope that a lot of Democrat politicians realize that is just a no-go for so many people. So I think that you're also going to see this pressure of pushing that. I think that's going to subside just organically because it is a losing issue.
I mean, we just saw Seth Moulton come out, who's a Democrat, against it, and they're ravaging him for just speaking the normal truth, which he's one of the smart ones. I've never met a person in real life that thinks that men should be playing in women's sports. I've never met that person, but apparently they exist.
Even a lot of transgender individuals. I mean, Caitlyn Jenner has come out and said, look, I'm against it as well. So thank you for helping lead the charge on that. Yes. Obviously, we've done our part. We even went so far as to dress up as women and play in a basketball movie.
We did.
Yeah, you should check that out.
There's ever a sequel, he's got to be in it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Obviously, we're gonna talk about this Tennessee and Georgia game. It's the game of the weekend, and we're going to pick that last. But I just want your thoughts right now on Tennessee football, having a solid year. Obviously, they're going to go play on the road this week. Do you have any information for us? Just your overall thoughts on the team right now.
This team it's very unique because when you think of Josh Heupel, you think of these high-powered offenses, and what you can tell that Josh Heupel is a great coach because he really modifies his system according to what works. Yeah. And right now it's running game and defense. And we saw this last season too. They really concentrate on the running game. When you had Hendon Hooker, it was the passing game and, those quick hits and all those sort of things. Nico's a great player. He's still a freshman and everyone needs to remember that. I think he's going to be amazing. But he's still going to get used to the SEC. And I don't think the offensive line has played that well through parts of the season. It's almost like we've seen two different teams of Tennessee. Up to the first half of the Oklahoma game, their offense was amazing. Their defense, of course, is elite. And then it's kind of like the offense has just been – they have those flashes of brilliance, but have been struggling to find their way. And there's been a lot of things. Again, the offensive line hasn't played that well at times. Nico's gotten hit a lot. The receivers haven't made some catches that they should have. There's been turnovers that just feel like they just take the air out of the offense. So hopefully they can put it all together against Georgia. If they do that, I mean, they are going to be extremely tough to beat, even in Athens.
I just wonder if Josh Heupel could get Oz the Mentalist in there to convince Tennessee it's always
he went on.
Why do you need Oz the Mentalist? No, it's always the second half of the game.
We basically have David Blaine.
David Blaine. We're a walking magician together.
You both together.
I am trying to get kind of used to this new style of Tennessee because for years, man, they play pretty good for about 3 quarters and then they just lose the game. And this year it's like they don't play that well for the first half and then they still end up pulling it out and they find a way to win. But again, I think that also goes back to that's what winners do is in the end, even if things aren't going your way, even if you aren't putting in your best performance, you find a way to win. And that's what this team has been doing all year.
Well, and I think it's shown you the versatility of Josh Heupel as compared to a Lincoln Riley. Sure. If this had happened to a Lincoln Riley coach team, it'd probably look a lot like it looks right now at USC. So I think it should give Tennessee fans even more confidence that you can win in multiple ways. And Josh Heupel, to your point, this is why coaching in high school is one of the best things that can happen to you at most high schools, is that you have to adapt to the personnel that you have for that year. You can't go out and sign all these 5-stars. Now, a couple high schools can, the IMGs and so forth. But I think it really shows you the coaching ability and the lack of stubbornness that Josh Heupel has to say, you know what? I'm an offensive guy, but I'm a guy that just wants to win. If we got to win 7-6, we'll win 7-6.
Complete football coaching, that's for sure.
Yep.
Hey, guys, think about it. Josh Heupel is 4-2 against Alabama and Florida.
Yeah.
When did we have last time we had a Tennessee coach?
Volunteers like
that. That's pretty amazing.
You got anything before we start?
I'm ready to pick these games.
All right. Mayor, we're going to pick these top 5 games of the weekend. We're going to go around. The first one up here is Arkansas is going to host Texas. Jake, you've been talking about this one all week. Break it down. Who wins?
You know, look, Arkansas, there's been some good, there's been some bad. You look at Texas, the wins they had earlier in the year don't look as good as they did now, even though they dominated Michigan, they dominated Oklahoma, and there's something to be said for that. And I think Texas is out there to prove to everybody that they are one of the top-level teams, even though the resume doesn't scream amazing. Even though Georgia was able to go into their house and double them up, I think there's a lot of anger at Texas, not in a bad way, but they want to keep proving it. And when you have that much talent, you have a chip on your shoulder, typically it works out good. But I'm going to tell you guys something. You give Bobby Petrino 2 weeks.
The reversal.
You give Taylon Green 2 weeks. Would you shut up and let me build the drama? You give Taylon Green 2 weeks. You give T-Will 2 weeks to be able to scout you and come up with a plan that he can attack. I think this Texas team is really good. I think they have really good players, but I don't think they're elite. I don't think they're elite on either side of the ball. And I think Taylon Green finds a way in Arkansas as a 13.5-point underdog when it's kind of started going downhill. I think Arkansas puts Texas in a position where they have to beat Texas A&M. I think Sam Pittman, remember what happened last time Texas went in that stadium? They got the brakes beat off of their ass. I don't know if it's going to be that bad this year. I think it could possibly go into overtime. But watch out for Taylon Green to run for 150 and throw for 200. I think T-Will heats up Quinn Ewers. Give me Arkansas.
Wow, Blaine, who you got?
Well, this game started at 13.5. I just looked at it. It's up to 16.5.
No.
Am I surprised? No. Look, and I've said this on the show, it's very scary to go to that stadium at 11 o'clock, coming from an Auburn fan, to play those guys early in the morning because there's always some witchery going around. But I think Texas is too good. I think Texas is too deep. I think Quinn's playing great right now. Jake, you've talked about this. I think Helm's one of the most underrated tight ends in college football. Isaiah Bond. And I don't think Taylon Green is good enough in the air to beat this Texas team. I like Texas, and I like Texas to cover.
Mayor, Texas up to number 3 in the college football playoff ranking, but Arkansas is coming off a bye, like Jake said. Who you taking to win?
Arkansas headed Tennessee, their only loss of the season. However, one of the things that really bothers me about the Tennessee game, and I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit, is Georgia's going to be really ticked off because they're coming off a loss to Ole Miss. So that emotion is going to be really high, and I think that's the same with Texas. So I think Arkansas is going to give them a heck of a game, but I got to go with Texas.
Yeah, Arkansas being at home plus coming off the bye is a little bit scary, but I keep seeing that 63-point number that Ole Miss put up on Arkansas. I think it's a little bit problematic. I'm going to take Texas as well in this game.
I feel like Mel Gibson in The Patriot when he gets the American flag during the retreat and he runs back and waves.
You're John.
You look just like him. You look just like him.
Thanks.
All right, Pitt 7-2, coming off a couple losses. Clemson 7-2. Really no room for error right here. Clemson still hoping to try and get in the college football playoff. Who you got, Jake?
You know, Pitt, started off 7-0. You lose to SMU, then you lose to Virginia at home. It's been going downhill. I know there's been some injury problems there, but nobody really even expected Pitt to be at 7-2. So they're still kind of playing with house money. I think it's funny, and Mayor, you brought up a great point about Georgia being pissed off about losing the game the way that they did, coming back and playing well against Tennessee. I look at that game, I think Clemson may have a little bit of that element too, with the way that, I know that they lost to Louisville a couple weeks ago, but there's a lot of people talking about, what happened with Clemson. Clemson, you look at the rankings, they're not up there with SMU and with Miami, and you look at where Louisville is, and they're not really being talked about that much. And I think Dabo and this team is going to go into Pitt against a team that's reeling, and not only win, I think they're an 11-point favorite, at least when we're talking right now. I think they're going to cover. I think Klubnik has a big day. I actually like the over in this game. But I want to see Clemson's defense get back to playing overtly physical. Get back to being that side of the ball that we're used to seeing. I think Clemson wins this one big.
Pretty good performance last week against Virginia Tech, giving up only 14 points, and that is on the road. This game opened at 9.5, and right now it is sitting at 12, so it has shot up a little bit. I think Clemson has too much to lose. to go in here and even play around with their food. I like what Pitt's done. I think Holstein's a good player. Always like that. Always got a couple guys on defense you watch on Sundays, but I think Clemson is just too much with Klubnik, with Maffa, with Williams at receiver, and sooner or later that defense has to show up in big moments, and I think they will. I like Clemson and Clemson to cover.
Mayor, obviously Clemson with the loss to Louisville now, and they lost to Georgia in the opener this year, who Tennessee's going on the road to play. Pitt back-to-back losses. Who are you going to take in this one?
I'm going to go with Clemson as well. It's a quality program. Yeah, Pitt surprised everybody this year, but magic look like it's running out, so I got to go with Clemson.
Yeah. I'm going to make it a clean sweep, too. The back-to-back losses for Pitt. Give me Clemson right now. I think they're trying to fight back in this college football playoff. All right, SEC matchup here. South Carolina going to host Missouri. This is a ranked game this weekend. What's the lineup, too, right now? Because
let me pull.
It was at
14.
14 when I saw it. Yeah, who are you going to take in this one?
I'm gonna throw some numbers at you. I'm gonna give a shout out to Austin Gregory. He put this on social media. Shane Beamer in the month of November. You know, we've heard about Cocktober before with South Carolina. Let me tell you about Crowvember. Shane Beamer's 10-4 in the month of November. Versus the ACC, he's 8-2. Versus the top 25, he's 4-2, 3-0 in the SEC. Versus the top 10, he's 3-0. Versus the top 5, he's 1-0. Basically put, Shane Beamer's teams get better as the year goes on. And when you look at the defense they put out in Lenora Sellers and that growth, you look at Missouri and the injuries that they've had. I know the records are similar. I know Missouri's still in the playoff hunt, but they're the ones getting hunted this weekend. I think South Carolina beats the brakes off of them. I don't care if it's Drew Pine or a hurt Brady Cook. I think you can make the argument that South Carolina's the top 7 team in the country right now. They're not going to get in because they're going to be 9-3 most likely. We'll see what happens with Clemson. They could be 8-4 at the end of the year. I like South Carolina. I like South Carolina big. So the whole state of South Carolina, Clemson and South Carolina, I think they're going to be happy.
You want to talk about a stadium that will be rocking coming this Saturday? That will be South Carolina. Look, I said it earlier in the year, and I caught a lot of hell for it. I thought South Carolina had one of the best defenses in the nation, especially up front in the front 7, and that have slowly shown out through the year. I don't know if you heard Drinkowitz last week, but Missouri's still in the playoff hunt. Technically, they are. I think they will come out and fight hard, but I think this game being at South Carolina, Lenore Sellers being the ability to be able to extend plays and run the ball, and the physicality of that defense will be the difference. This game opened at 14. It is still sitting at 14, what I am saying.
Gotcha.
And I think South Carolina will cover.
Mayor, South Carolina not really in the SEC championship race, but Missouri is, and obviously head coach Eli Drinkowitz thinks that they're still in the college football playoff race with 2 losses there. Who do you think wins this one?
Yeah, this one hurts me. I grew up in Missouri, so I still have some sentimental attachment towards Mizzou. And South Carolina knocked Tennessee out of the national playoff picture a few years ago with Tennessee with the loss there. I think they're going to do the same thing to Mizzou, actually. And I got to go with South Carolina.
Was that the Hendon Hooker ACL game?
Yes,
that
it was. That was just a terrible game because you lost and Hendon got hurt and just the whole season
like
fell
a
apart
30-point loss or something. Yeah. I'm going to take South Carolina as well. I'm really proud of Shane Beamer. Not only am I not surprised they're favorited, I'm really not that surprised with the line. And I said this on Memphis radio this week. What team in the country would want to play South Carolina
Not me.
now? I don't know it for a fact that Oregon or the Buckeyes will just take care of business against South Carolina. No one wants to play them, and it makes those losses, it makes the teams that beat them, like that close win that Alabama had, it makes those wins look even better.
Very true.
All right, let's go to BYU and Kansas quickly here. BYU looking to stay undefeated against a 3-6 Kansas team, but Kansas has been playing better the last couple of weeks.
They have. You look at what Kansas put on the field. You look at what they did against Iowa State. They're looking like we expected them to look before the season with Jalen Daniels. Got a great back, have some pieces around him. But I tell you what, say what you want about BYU. These cats just know how to win. Whether it's ugly against Utah, whether it's beautiful against Kansas State, whether it's sloppy against SMU or they won 18-15, BYU, whether it's ugly or whether it's pretty, they know how to win. They've caught the breaks they need to catch because they've earned them. You look at them defensively, they haven't been great against the run, but when they have to be, they find a way to bow up. Retzlaff has not turned the ball over. You're getting the best version of him. He's like an actor that can improvise and be a method actor at the same time. You're getting the best version of him in all those situations. I actually think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I would not be shocked if Kansas was up at halftime, but I am not betting against BYU until they play somebody in the playoff because they've shown me they can win in so many ways and they know how to win, which is a key in anything in life, but especially in a team sport
It's
like
funny, we're talking about BYU right now, ranked 6th in the nation and only a 2.5-point favorite against a 3-6 Kansas team. So if there's anything wrong with the playoffs. Okay, so we say that, Jake, I agree with a lot of what you said. BYU feels like a timely team, right? When they need that drive for a touchdown, they get it. When they need that stop on defense, they get it. When they need that flag on 4th and 10 at Utah, they get it. And look, it's hard for me not to go with Resloff and all those 30-year-olds at BYU. I think I'm going to. But I'm telling you, if this is a game, you don't have to bet this. I would probably stay away from this game. If I am betting it, I'll take BYU money line because until they can prove that they can lose a football game, I'm going to keep rolling. It's like rolling with the Army, in my opinion. Yeah. Army's had close games, but they find a way to finish.
Winners win.
Mayor, the Vegas preseason win projection for BYU was 4.5, and here they sit undefeated, looking to win the conference and make the college football playoff. Do you think they remain unbeaten this weekend?
Yeah, it's a personal bias of mine that I always feel that West Coast teams they're just not as strong when they start getting into some serious competition. Changed a little bit now that you have the basically the Pac-10's dissolved and they've gone to other places, but nevertheless, that's just how I've always felt about things. However, I think in this case, I just think they have a lot more firepower than Kansas did, and they'll pull it. I think they'll actually win pretty convincingly.
Well, they certainly do feel like a team of destiny, and for that reason, I'm not going to be the one to jinx them with us all picking BYU. So I'm going to pick Kansas. I'm going to pick Kansas in this game for the upset.
Can we just for a second just take a moment to realize how crazy, to sum up the craziness of this college football season? We're talking about Tennessee being a defensive team and BYU having more offensive firepower than Kane.
You got to love it.
And you know what? They're both right.
Yeah.
It's
the upside down.
It's the upside down.
What a great year. All right, game of the weekend. Tennessee going to go on the road here, play the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia coming off that loss. Their back's against the wall right now. Nico, we don't know if he's going to play. We hear he might play. Who's going to win it?
It's an elimination game for Georgia. It's not for Tennessee, but it would take a big step toward locking up not only a SEC championship berth, but a college football playoff berth if Tennessee can find a way to win. Georgia has not been themselves this year. I think on both sides of the ball, especially offensively, though. They're still pretty damn good defensively, but offensively with Carson Beck, he hasn't been elite enough to make the weapons around him better. And Tennessee, like we said, Josh Heupel's done an unbelievable job molding the clay into a winner, even though it may not be the exact clay that he's used to having. But I've noticed a trend that every team that has had their back up against the wall this year has won. Outside of LSU, because LSU and Alabama both had their back up against the wall. One team had to win, one team had to lose. I think you can say a lot of things about Kirby Smart, most of them good, maybe a couple of them bad, but you can never question his motivation ability. And I know what a dog's like when it's backed in a corner. And I think Carson Beck's sitting here listening to this. I think Mikael Williams is sitting here listening to this, talking about how they're going to be the group that lets down the Georgia fans for a second straight year, coming off 2 natties. Carson Beck comes in there, don't make the college football playoff. So you're going to not only not win the natty, but not make the playoff for 2 years. I don't think that's acceptable when you have the type of athletes that Georgia has running around. They may not be the Georgia pass, and they aren't, but that doesn't mean they can't get up for this game. I think you're going to see a lot closer version to the Georgia team that played Texas than you saw the one that played against Alabama, and then we know what happened against Ole Miss. Not that Tennessee can't bounce back and make the playoff. I think they still do. Not that Georgia's even a better team overall than Tennessee when Tennessee is fully healthy. But this weekend in Athens, I think Georgia wins. Low-scoring slugfest. I'm calling it the Diet Clemson-Georgia game because I think it's going to look similar.
Blaine?
I agree with a lot of what you just said, Jake. And
all right, Blaine, thanks.
I think I don't think Georgia's just going to pop out and look like a complete better football team.
Yeah.
I think we know who Georgia is. I don't think they have a lot of weapons on offense. I think Carson Beck has been a letdown. I think this is a good Georgia defense, but not a great one. The one thing I question in this game is Nico's health. Okay, I've had plenty of concussions. You have to know who Nico is as a player. Nico is a running quarterback. That's right. He extends plays. That's what makes him great. And there's always a little something after you get a concussion. Trust me, I've had plenty. In the back of your mind, when you're about to take off and do something, if you start questioning that. I think Nico's game has to change a little bit because of his injury, and that's going to help Georgia out. I think it's going to be a low-scoring football game. I think Carson Beck will make a play at the end to win it, but I think Nico's injury changes the way this game will get played, and I think it favors Georgia.
Mayor, what are your thoughts on quarterback availability, and why does Tennessee win it?
Yeah, this is a tough one because everything that y'all said is exactly true. But I'm going to make the case for Tennessee.
Let's go.
Gaston Moore he has done a good job when he's been in there. He is competent. He's not spectacular, but he's competent. Tennessee, arguably, if they can put it all together, has the best defense in the country.
Agreed.
Beck has a bad tendency to throw the football to the guys in the other colored jersey. Mm-hmm. He's going to be under tremendous pressure. So, yes, Tennessee has to play a near perfect game. But if they do that, they can win. There's a lot on the line. I think they will do that. Again, literally this could be a toss-up. You look at Georgia. They're going to come in all ticked off. They're going to see blood. They're going to go for it. But this season has just been so topsy-turvy. I thought that Texas was the cream of the crop, and then Georgia beats them. Then you look at Vandy, and Vandy beats Alabama.
And almost Texas.
Tennessee gets past Georgia. They still have to look at Alabama and at Vandy. This is a Vandy team that you have to take very seriously this year. Mm-hmm. So this is one of those years I think anything can happen. But I really do. I think that Tennessee's defense will keep them in the game, and if their offense can just play well enough to move the ball, to get some scores here and there, and Beck make some mistakes, Tennessee can win this game.
I agree. Well, Jeff Foxworthy came on this show, and I picked Georgia to beat Texas, and that served me well. Similarly, I'm not going to sit here in this chair when one of my childhood heroes from right there comes on this show. I'm not going to sit here and pick against the Tennessee Volunteers, all right? Wish that I was on a Rocky Top down in the Tennessee hills. Tennessee by 7.
God, I love it. Can I just say this real quick? Because there's something that just drives me.
Is it about me?
It's yes.
Okay.
But it's about a line of thinking.
Okay.
How, on one hand, can you sit here and say, I don't think Georgia is going to show up and play really well at home with their back against the wall against Tennessee after they literally dominated Texas at Texas a couple weeks ago. But then on the other hand, say Texas is an elite team. Arkansas's got no chance to beat them. How do those two things exist in the same world? Please explain it to me.
I don't know if you've been...
This year's year... It's game to game.
Maybe that's it.
Like it's basically like it's schizophrenic college football. That's what we get every Saturday.
Maybe I'm just trying to make a logical thing.
We're trying to find playoff committees. We're trying to find We're trying to find the Zodiac killer.
Mayor, thanks so much for joining us, my friend. It's always an honor to get you on. You always make time for us. And we're really just proud of what you've done and what you're doing and standing up for the right things, not having men and women's sports, common sense things. Can you just talk for a second about the direction you think we're heading as a country and how optimistic or even pessimistic you could be? But I'm guessing it's probably optimism now.
It's very optimistic. Before last week's election, when I would look at Tennessee state government, Tennessee is the greatest state in the union. There are so many reasons, but we're doing great here. But I thought that our focus as a state was going to have to really kind of firewall Tennessee from some of this craziness that you're seeing other places. And frankly, from Washington and some of the policies coming out of Washington, D.C., man, that's all flipped now. And I really think that as a state, we can work with President Trump to really lead the nation in a number of areas. I do think that there's a window that it's 1 or 2 years that a lot of things have to happen. But I'm very optimistic. And, obviously, too, man, you think long term, President Trump's got 1 term. Hopefully he can get all this stuff. Dude, I am so thrilled. And I'm a small government person, so it's hard for me to say, there's another government department, and I'm all for that. But the Department of Government Efficiency with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy is transformational. I mean, it can change the trajectory of this country. So you think about it, if Trump can have 4 good years, if he can get past that window and still get some stuff done, then you got whoever, whether it's J.D. Vance or whoever waiting in the wings, you could have 12 years of solid conservative leadership that can just transform the trajectory of our nation. So I Tuesday just switched a lot of things around for me. And I went from being, oh man, what are we going to do? We have to play defense, to now thinking we are on the offensive in a very good way. And it could be for a very long time.
Well, it's one thing to be like, oh man, what are we going to do? And it's nothing to be like, oh man, what are we going to do?
Exactly,
Let it go. You know.
So you do think that Elon and Vivek will be given real authority to actually implement some of the changes they want? And this just isn't a made-up department just to keep them busy? Okay.
No. One of the reasons that I was, I've always liked Donald Trump, but one of the reasons I was so adamant this time was because, look, he can be a vindictive dude. That's exactly what we need. They came after him with everything that they had. The dude survived an assassination attempt, right? They came after him with everything they had. And if you don't think that he isn't going to go in there and this time, the deep state's going to get torn out by the roots. You can already see that. Everybody in the Department of Justice right now has got to be quaking because they're looking at potentially Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. Can you imagine that, right? So I really think that this time it is gloves off, and Donald Trump is going to do what he thinks, he really believes that he needs to do to turn this country around and get us on the right path.
Well, you're a Hall of Fame wrestler, you're now a mayor, and you're a Hall of Fame person. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, I know we'd love to have you back on, and good luck to your Vols this weekend in a massive matchup against Georgia, Mr. Mayor.
Go Vols.
Oh, man, I was not going to lie. I was a little nervous picking against Tennessee with Kane on the
You should be.
If
there's ever a time to be nervous,
jump through the screen and grab me. But again, thanks so much to Kane and Glenn Jacobs for hopping on. All right, we're going to get to the donuts of the chat. But first, Justine, we got some calls on the line, huh?
Yes, we do.
All right, let's do it.
First up, we have Joshua from Tennessee.
Oh, Jesus. Hello?
Hey. Hey, guys. I just wanted to...
Oh, different Josh. Different Josh. I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not the North Carolina Josh.
Oh, okay.
No.
Good. Okay. Well, I'm just kidding. We love both.
No, I'm not Knoxville Josh.
Okay.
But I wanted to give my 2 cents about the Josh Heupel, John Gruden discussion. But first, I actually got to meet Glenn Jacobs a handful of years ago back in Politicon in Nashville.
Yeah, cool.
And I'm not a small dude. I'm 6'2", 315 pounds. And when I went in for that handshake and my hand just disappears,
he's huge.
He's a giant.
Yeah. But he's like big, like in every like sense, like height, width, like it's just a huge human being, but an awesome human being.
Oh yeah. Awesome. But anyway, the Josh Heupel, John Gruden, I don't know if John Gruden would have ever won a natty. My gut tells me no. So I'm very happy with Heupel. But one aspect of this that I don't think anyone's considered is with Heupel, we also got Danny White.
Yeah, that's true.
And that is huge.
I'm just saying, I think the right answer is Heupel. But, in the back of my mind, what Gruden could have done from that place, just from being an NFL guy and the recruits he could have brought there, just with that NFL resume, man, it's just I just don't know if I see a ceiling.
What would worry me is, when would he want to go back to the NFL? Because that's what I would always be worried about. It's like Jim Harbaugh. When Michigan started cooking, they weren't worried about him going to USC or LSU. It was to the NFL because he viewed himself, I still believe, as an NFL coach. He had a brother that's an NFL coach. So I think you'd have always had that. And if he'd have balled out in college, there's an NFL team, just like the Chargers, that would have came in and grabbed him. So I think a bird in the hand is better than one in the bush. And without a doubt, having Josh Heupel, I think, is the right answer.
If you're a Tennessee fan, you would take a national championship, then your coach leave.
Yeah, but that's not guaranteed though. There's been a lot of high-profile guys that haven't won a national championship. Hell, Jim Moore is at Connecticut. So it's not a guarantee. John Gruden wasn't beating Nick Saban. I'm gonna tell you right now, he wouldn't be. Not in college. In the NFL, John Gruden will beat Nick Saban. In college, this is Nick Saban's world. He's the greatest to ever do it. I think they got the right guy with Josh Heupel.
And Josh Heupel beat Nick Saban.
Yeah, Josh beat him.
So Gruden couldn't?
No, well, Josh is a college coach. He's understands the recruiting, right? Understands it's a totally different situation in the NFL than it is in college. Why do you think Nick Saban went to the NFL? Nope, this don't smell right. I'm going back. Steve Spurrier went to the NFL. Nope, this don't smell right. I'm going back. So I think it's just totally different. I think Tennessee's in a good spot, though, Josh. Thanks for the call. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. Oh, I was just going to say, as a volunteer fan who has gone through this hellish purgatory with coaches, I would not take a natty with such a high chance that my coach would leave, because we just give ourselves back in the same situation that we had right after Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, you would.
I understand that.
You would. Yes, you would. You would take a natty and your head coach would leave. Go ask Michigan fans.
Unless you were to guarantee me that Josh Heupel could not win a natty. If you were to guarantee me that, then sure. But I don't think that's a guarantee. So
yeah, no, it's a great perspective.
Yeah,
Josh.
that's
Thanks
good.
for the call, buddy.
Great call, man.
All right, next up, we're going to go to a different Josh. Don't worry, still not the other Josh, but this one's from Boise.
What's up?
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
How's it going, bro?
Hey, real quick, I've just got one request for you guys.
Okay.
I've noticed, and I've been listening to you guys like every day since the beginning of college football season.
Thank you.
Every one of your college football playoff predictors for the end of the season, your group of 5 rep has pretty much been every team but Boise State to this point.
Didn't Cone pick Boise? I think Cone may have. I know I went Memphis. I can't remember if Cone went Boise or UNLV. I can't remember. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, and it's shifted throughout the year to where for a minute it was like UNLV after Memphis lost. Somebody had Appalachian State at the beginning of the year, and then Army-Navy, the winner of that game. So my only request, fellas, is that at this point, when, not necessarily if, Army loses to Notre Dame by like 35 next week, you guys don't take like Tulane and put them in.
No, Boise would be there. Boise would be there. But I'm telling you right now, I think Army beats Notre Dame. I've been saying that for the past couple weeks. But how's everybody feeling in Boise right now?
Man, we're super stoked. I never thought, and maybe I mentioned this to you before, I never thought that Boise would have as much hype as the Kellen Moore years in 2009 and 2010 and 2011, where we just smoked everybody, right? Didn't matter who it was. We have more hype this year because of Genty. And honestly, our defense, especially like our sack rate, I think we're number 1 in sacks in the country on defense. Really actually makes us pretty optimistic about what this team could potentially do on any given day in the playoff if we make it.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand why you aren't ranked 4th or 5th or 6th. I mean, go look at Boise's schedule and their resume. Same thing with Texas. Same thing with Penn State.
Well, no, that's wrong. Boise, Texas is, while their schedule isn't great, when you look at who they've played compared to Boise, it's not even close outside of Boise playing Oregon. I don't think those two things are the same.
0 ranked wins.
Yeah, but it depends on who you play. I mean, Texas played Michigan and Oklahoma, right? Let's not, it's not a great schedule. And I'm not trying to knock Boise. Boise's didn't look great against Nevada. I know Nevada's kind of looked better. You know, they looked pretty decent against SMU to start. I disagree with that comparison. What I'm interested to see is where Boise State goes from here from a conference standpoint. Josh, is there any type of talk out there of, you know, could Boise State maybe end up going to a Power 5 conference, or could we have some sort of merging, right, of what is left over in the Pac-12 and the Mountain West? We've already kind of seen it to try and create maybe a power conference. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, the thing that I keep hearing over and over again, we're committed to the Pac-12, right? Like the new Pac-12. And the reason why we're so committed is because we are convinced the way the football playoff committee wrote everything at the beginning when the Pac-12 was actually a conference is that we're convinced we're going to get an automatic bid.
Okay.
That, like we're somehow.
And that's why I asked. That's why I asked.
So, yes, and I will say, I mean, we beat Washington State, you guys. They're ranked number 18 at this point.
That's a good quality. They're a quality club.
They are. And UNLV, they're right outside the top 25. Blaine, I think you're a little bit more correct in terms of our strength of schedule. If you look at like the top 12 teams, I don't even think we're last in terms of strength of schedule compared to maybe 1 or 2 of those teams in the top 12.
I mean, right now, Indiana, I mean, are 5 better, you know, when it comes to scheduling. So, I mean, they don't even have a loss. It's just, we go back to it, just the committee has no credentials of how to.
I agree with that. I agree with
that. If you put something in front of me that's tangible and I can look at, that's fine. But, you go through the schedules, and obviously Texas is in the SEC, and it's going to be harder because you play Oklahoma and stuff like that. But there's still 5-win team, Oklahoma is. I mean, USC or Michigan, one of the 5-win teams. So, I mean, you can cut it as many different ways as you want to. But at the end of the day, I mean, Boise State, you have one loss against a ranked Oregon by 3. So, I mean,
that's a quality loss
you could have.
Can we? Yeah, I think it's a conversation. But I look at Texas' schedule. Colorado State, Michigan, UTSA, UL Monroe, who's better than what people thought, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Georgia, Vanderbilt, who we know is better than what a lot of people thought, Florida, then you go to Arkansas, you get Kentucky at home, and then you go to Texas A&M.
How bad do you think Texas would beat Boise State?
I think Texas would beat Boise State by 14 to 17 points.
Probably. Okay.
That's what I think.
Okay.
Look, and again, I'm not trying to clown Boise State. I just want to make sure when we're talking about schedules, what one thing is different than the other, even though they may both not be great. That's all I'm saying, Josh. But great call, man. It's always great when you call in.
Yeah, hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right, Justine, who do we got next?
Let's go to Peter in California.
Okay.
Pete.
Happy Friday, Jake, Blaine, David, and Justine from California.
What's up, dude?
What's up, man?
I'm doing great. First, that was a great interview with Kane. I once met him at the Los Angeles Politicon convention.
He's just been to every Politicon there ever was, I guess.
Well, the event is no longer happening because the company decided to focus on podcasting instead of fancy, expensive conventions. But I once met him there in Los Angeles at the convention center. I love his advocacy for liberty and common sense and his appreciation for Elon Musk, too. He's also the first WWE star I've ever met. Second, I'm super duper excited. We have a lot of showdowns this weekend. Here are my predictions.
Go ahead,
I go
quick.
to Vegas and I go place a lot of great bets. Georgia will crush Tennessee 20-17. Give me the under. South Carolina will beat Missouri 32-15. Give me the over. Kansas City beats Buffalo 30-23 and will go 10 and OMG. The LA Chargers nearly stunned the Cincinnati Bengals 23-22. I place a money line bet just for the heck of it. An unpopular opinion here, Jake Paul will beat Mike Tyson. That's my bold prediction.
All
and
right,
finally,
Peter.
I can't wait for the revival of Friday Night Lights.
All right, I know we're actually going to talk about that next week, but stay safe out there in Cali.
Next, let's go to Matt in Atlanta.
Matt, what's up?
Hey, fellas. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday,
What's up,
my
dude?
friend.
All right. I've been wanting to call in all week and ask you guys. I only managed to do it today, and I'm really lucky because I think today's the last chance I'd have. I got a crazy playoff path for you guys.
Okay.
Don't want to hear it's not possible, but here we go. All right. I'm a Yellow Jacket. Still reeling from Saturday.
Georgia Tech?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's imagine ACC falls apart here in the last 3 weeks. Tech still has a non-zero chance of making the ACC championship. If they win, does the ACC drop from a 1-bid playoff team to a 0-bid playoff team?
If Georgia Tech wins?
The ACC.
Yeah, I mean, then Georgia Tech would automatically not only go to the playoff, but get a top 4 spot and a bye. Because one has to go because they automatically qualify.
Top 4 ranked. I thought it was just the top 4 ranked.
Well,
winners.
I mean, listen.
So I thought the ACC
here's
would drop out.
Nah, I don't. I think the top 4 are always going to be the Power 4.
The Mountain West.
Like
There's
it's
still the Mountain West.
there is, but there. I mean, have you seen the playoff rankings? Have you seen the way that they've put the way they've kind of logo watched?
Well, sure.
I mean,
Sure, but keep in mind, this would involve a 3-loss Miami team. This would involve a 3-loss, Clemson would be down to 2 losses, but they'd lose the championship, the ACC. Everybody else would be 3 losses. SMU would have to lose out. So they'd all have 3 losses in the ACC.
Yeah, and
at this point, there's no big brands in the ACC anymore.
Well, even if the Mountain West were to jump them and were to be the 4th, the ACC would still get an automatic bid if they were the 5th highest rated conference. There's no way they're going to push a Power 4 conference all the way to 6th. It's just not going to happen. I thought you were going to sit here and explain to me Georgia Tech's path to get into the playoff, which is still alive. A lot would have to happen. But Matt, man, if that were to happen, brother, you want to talk about the Phillips guy, I believe is the commissioner of the ACC, Jim Phillips, I think. You want to talk about taking the villagers and going up to the building with pitchforks and torches? That's how that would happen.
I like that you think that there's enough Tech fans to raise a big enough protest.
I'm talking about ACC in general. If the ACC gets skipped over and becomes the sixth highest rated conference, there would be hell to pay. And think about the TV networks as well, too. I see what you're saying. I love the alternate universe, like what could happen. The Georgia Tech thing's interesting to keep an eye on, though.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Well, actually, one last wrinkle in
Go
that.
ahead.
If we lose to Georgia, we would go down to 5 losses. So do you think the win against Georgia is required for that? Or do you think the answer stays the same?
I think the answer stays the same.
Yeah.
I think the answer stays the same. All right, Matt.
I love the hope.
We got a shot. I'll take it.
I love the hope.
Hey, so you're telling me there's a chance.
Let it live.
So you're telling me there's a chance. All right, great calls, everybody, today. Want to get to the chat, but first, gonna get to these bets. All right, throw it up on the board. Here's what I got tonight. Okay. Mike Tyson's damn near 60 years old.
Yeah.
It ain't getting to 7 rounds. All right, it's supposed to be 8 2-minute rounds. So give me the under 6.5 rounds for the Paul Tyson fight tonight at minus 130. And then I'm going to go college basketball. Been hot. Hadn't missed one yet on the show bets. Bama, Purdue under 164. There's some great college basketball matchups on tonight. Ohio State goes to Texas A&M. Florida goes to Florida State. Purdue's 7'4". Redwood, they got 7'4" Island. Jacobson is not playing tonight. I don't think you'd be crazy to take Alabama. I think they're a 3.5-point favorite or whatever.
Let me ask you, if the SEC kind of clean sweeps today, is this the best start for them ever?
If the SEC, if Florida beats Florida State, Texas A&M beats Ohio State, and Bama beats Purdue, after Kentucky beat Duke and Auburn beat Houston and LSU mopped Kansas State last night, it is the best start to a non-conference basketball season for the SEC that I've ever seen.
I love it. All right, pull my bets up there. I hope you took the Saquon Barkley 2+ touchdowns yesterday. And damn it, he should have had 3. That was going off at plus 295, boys. Rack 'em. North Texas and UTSA. Look, man, anytime an under's in the 70s, it's hard for me not to take. I'm taking the under at 72.5 at minus 115. Then UCLA and Washington, I'm going to take the over in this game at 46.5 at minus 115. I think it's going to be a lot of points in this game.
Very, very interesting. David is going to go with he's going to be bet buds with me. Tyson and Paul under 6.5 rounds, minus 135. And then Arizona on the road, I believe they host Houston. I'm pretty sure that game is tonight. I know Arizona, who's ranked number 9, goes on the road to play Wisconsin in basketball, but they got Houston at home. Apparently, Cone thinks Houston will have a problem. He's going to take Arizona minus 1.5. Then what does Ace got?
Ace money.
Ace is going to go Tyson money line because I love it. Because he loves it. All right, at plus 195. And then UCLA plus 3.5 tonight on the road at Washington at minus 112. All right, let's get to
If I could add a bet to mine, give me that Mike Tyson plus 195 2 by knockout.
Yeah,
you have a video right now?
So Mike Tyson, some of y'all might not know who Hasbulla is, but he's like a grown. He's got that like Jack disease or whatever, or the
Benjamin
opposite.
Button disease.
Benjamin Button disease. He's like grown, but he's a child. So he fooled Mike Tyson. So now I guess Mike Tyson thinks every child is an adult. Here's this girl's got to be 13, 14 years old, interviewing Mike Tyson. And Mike totally not realizing this is a kid that just asked the question. Let's go ahead and play it.
Well, in your return to the ring for this fight, you are setting a monumental opportunity for kids my age to see the legend, Mike Tyson, in the ring for the first time. What type of legacy would you like to leave behind when it's all said and done?
Well, I don't know. I don't believe in the word legacy. I just think that's another word for ego. That's just some word everybody grabbed onto. Now it's used every 5 seconds. It means absolutely nothing to me. I'm just passing through. I'm going to die, and it's going to be over. Who cares about legacy after that? What a big ego. So I'm going to die. I want people to think that I'm this, I'm great. No, we're nothing. We're just dead. We're dust. We're absolutely nothing. Our legacy is nothing.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That is something that I have not heard before, someone say that as an answer.
Can you really imagine somebody say, I want my legacy to be this way when you're dead? You think somebody really wants to think about you? I want people to think about me when I'm gone. Who the cares about me when I'm gone?
No, what's more terrifying is that Mike knew that was a kid.
I don't think Mike...
he knew that was a kid, Jake. He knew... That's the most terrifying thing.
This is like when you realize your 11-year-old's not smart, but they tell you want to be they want to be an astronaut, and you're like, hey, like you're not.
Who came up with that idea? Let's put our 13-year-old daughter to interview Mike Tyson, who's like clinically insane.
Yeah, a lot better answers.
Also went to jail.
Yeah, it's wasn't a great answer there from Mike.
All right, let's get these donations today. If you donated, appreciate it on this side. Let's go to a $20 donation from RJ. Appreciate it. Sir Flaming Dragon, to have Auburn win 3 titles in the next 4 years, you have to catch a pass across the middle, but you have to get hit by Brian Dawkins or Sean Taylor. And Jake, what bet made you pull your hair? I would get hit by Brian Dawkins and Sean Taylor at the same time to have a national championship.
Yeah, I'd get hit by a train.
Yeah, like I would get hit by a lot of things.
And what bet made
you pull your hair?
Like the worst beat I've ever gotten?
I think so.
There was, probably 2 or 3 years ago. Last year. I think Northwestern was playing Minnesota. And I had like a 16-leg parlay to win like $2,500. And Crain Picks Tracker will remember this one. The last game I had to have hit was just Minnesota money line over Northwestern. And they were up like 17 in the 4th. And somehow Northwestern, who was awful on offense that whole game, sent it into overtime and ended up winning. That was the only leg of the parlay I missed. I'm actually getting upset thinking about it now. So that's RJ. That's about as real as I can get for you, bro.
Let's go to a $10 donation from Dean. Cone, if you're listening, we got a donation for you. Cone, I know you'll be rooting on our Hoosiers next week in Columbus. If I buy you some Indiana gear and donate to a charity of your choice, will you wear it on next week's pregame?
I will answer that for Cone, yes.
$5 donation from Mikey. Appreciate it. Mike says, hey, guys, love the show. Jake, I need to get your thoughts on Auburn this weekend. Can ULM pull it off?
Backup quarterbacks in. Look, it's just been bad, especially offensively. Auburn's going to win the game. As far as a cover standpoint, to me, it's at 46. I kind of like the under in this game. General Booty, which is one of the best names in college football, and Bryant Vincent's a great friend of ours, coach and buddy of ours, head coach at ULM. I think Auburn's going to win. Do they cover 25.5? Probably not. At this point, I just wish you could simulate the rest of the season like in the video game.
Let's go to a $3 donation from Don. Appreciate it, Don. It says, Jake, Peyton Thorne is announced as the starter, even though he's injured. What are your thoughts?
Next question.
All right, that's the last donation of the day, guys. If you donate, appreciate it so much on this side. Let's get to this poll.
On this side.
Would you watch the new... Don't make fun of how I talk, dude.
It's just, I love when you get the surfer tone.
I don't get the surfer tone.
Bro, thanks for the donations this side, bro. Just wreck these waves.
You have to put a voice on when you do this, or I'd sound like a southern asshole. All right, let's go to, would you watch the new Friday Night Lights? Yes or no?
Yeah, if people don't know, apparently there's a reboot of Friday Night Lights, like the show, the series. It's going to be set like in the same universe, but like different characters. We need to be in it. All right, first off, we need to be in it. Director, producer, whatever. Come on, throw us in there. We've been in a movie before. But yes, 85%.
Yes. 44%.
44? No?
56%.
Maybe they think a sequel sucks.
Well, look, the thing about it is I've reached out to the guy who's making it, and I'm trying to get us in it.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
We appreciate you guys. Make sure you check us out on Monday. Got a great show for you. Sunday recap as well. As I forget, and play the graphic. We all know what happened.
No, that doesn't count.
Play the graphic.
We gotta stop doing this.
Yeah.
We gotta stop having 30-minute interviews on Friday so they get bailed out. We have 2 more donations.
It's called strategy.
$5 donation from BCC. Appreciate it. I'm trailing your locks, leans, and dogs, as well as your bets today. Let's hope for better luck than I've had so far this week. We'll get back at you. I hope you took that Saquon bet. And David's favorite Badger, $5 donation. He's ready for some broiled duck this Saturday. Badgers for the win. So good, causing so much chaos that even David Cone will be jumping around.
I like the over in that game, Oregon-Wisconsin. I think Oregon's going to drop a 45-piece. All right, we appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll see you on the Sunday recap and like the chances of me not enjoying college football this weekend. We're going.
Catch it, son.
Oh! I thought I was going to stand up. Gone. That'd have been
what a
that'd have been so dope. Gone. See ya.